Welcome to Everyone Has a Story podcast. Today we get to talk about goosebumps. Now, let's really define what a goosebump is. I'm not talking about those times where you're outside, it's probably snowing, freezing rain, and you just get chilled to the bone, and so those natural goosebumps appear. I'm not talking about the time that you open up the freezer door and you get that frozen blast of air and you get that quick moment of just chilled. I'm talking about those things that really, really touch you emotionally, all the way to your core of a being. And to describe that, I got to tell you probably one of my favorite stories with my dad. We're hunting. I'm 25. My dad is 78, and we're walking through the hills. We're walking up and down. And I start to notice that my dad is struggling a little bit more than normal. But the guy's 78 years old, so, I'm not giving him a whole lot of pressure to keep up. And I see that he's starting to struggle a little bit more. So I say, do you want to sit down? So we sit down, and you could tell that he really enjoyed that invitation to sit down and take a breather. He's got the heavy clothes on. He's got his gun in his hand. So we're sitting there and he's catching his breath more than normal. And I look at him as a concerned son. At this time, my dad's like my best friend. And I go, Dad, why do you keep doing this? You can tell you're struggling. If it's to be next to me, we can find other activities less strenuous. And he looked at me and he said, you know what? I appreciate that, but I just can't think of being anywhere else here. And I go, why is that? And he said, because I still get goosebumps when I have those opportunities to walk around the corner of the hill, come through the trees and see that deer again. And that just makes my blood just go. Just gets my whole emotions rushing. And I still to this day get those goosebumps. And I'm thinking to myself, God, what a treasured moment to hear my dad say that to me at 78 years old, that he could still get those goosebumps. So now let's fast forward, almost 35 some years. And I'm now talking to a complete stranger who we met, who I got introduced to, who's a transformational coach. And we're talking about just helping people in general, especially the business community. And she just all of a sudden stopped and froze, and she goes, oh my God, Roger, I'm getting goosebumps. And all of a sudden that story of my dad flashed back to me, and I got goosebumps because she said it almost identically to how my dad, you could just feel the passion that she has to say. And so I immediately invited her to be a guest on my podcast. We're going to be doing some things together here in the future, but I could not wait to have recording this episode, because there is something very, very unique about that feeling, that emotion that you have when you get goosebumps. And I can't think of anybody better today than to talk to my new good friend, Sue Boland. So Sue, welcome. I can't thank you enough for reintroducing me to that feeling of goosebumps. And we're going to talk about that here in a little bit, but let's really get to know you first and let you share your goosebumps with the audience here. Sue, you're a transformational life coach. Tell us what that is and tell us a little bit more about who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks very much, Roger. And thank you for sharing that story. I wasn't aware of that story, and it's lovely to hear that, and what I had said resonated with you so much from such a beautiful experience with your father. So that's really nice. So yeah, just a little bit about me then, I suppose. So yeah, I'm a transformative life coach, and I coach people who are at a transition in their lives. So maybe kind of at that sort of a crossroads in their lives, and they're not sure what way to go or which road to take, I suppose. And, they're at a real transition in their lives. And I suppose my role as a transformative coach is supporting them and kind of guiding and coaching them through that transition, through the transformative work, but also through mindfulness coaching, the use of positive psychology tools and techniques. And I'm also a trained EFT practitioner. So it's a very, very much a holistic approach that I have in terms of my coaching. And with the transformative work, it's really, helping people who are at that crossroads and are feeling stuck and not really knowing, how to move forward, where they are in life, how to get past, to get from where they are to where they want to be, sometimes not even knowing where they want to be. So real sort of sense of not knowing. I find that a lot of people who come to me as well have been through maybe very difficult life events. So a lot may have happened in their lives. And they might still be sort of trying to process or really deal with kind of some of those difficulties or those challenges that have happened in their lives that have led them now to this point where they know something needs to change. There needs to be, some sort of transition, and now they're at this point. So with the transformative work, I really help them to sort of delve deep through very deep coaching, really exploring, what is going on for them, possibly, kind of working through navigating, I suppose, those difficult events that might have happened, really trying to get to the root of the issues and examining sort of their beliefs, values, behaviors. So it's a real, as it is the word it says, transformative work, real digging deep and really exploring who this person is, what, helping them move out of the kind of difficulties that they've experienced, um, and kind of get on that path to making transformative, long lasting changes in their lives. So that's kind of the
Well,
work I do. And then, yeah, through the
yeah,
coach.
and I can't think of anybody better to really talk about this very technical term in feeling of goosebumps. So, from a really technical basis in your profession, what is your definition of goosebumps? What are they really?
Well, the goosebumps, the goosebumps, I think in terms of, we're looking at goosebumps in terms of my profession, it's definitely when those moments where I think the way I would describe it is when something touches my soul is one way of describing it. And physically, it's that kind of rush, that sort of, that tingle through the arms. You feel this sort of wave or something like wash over you physically, almost to the point where it might take your breath away. It's that real, it's physical, but it's also deep. So it's something, and I think you said it quite well earlier. It's something that hits you at the core. So it's that moment where something really touches you at the core of your being, deep within. And, that might come from, there might have been a realization in that moment in the coaching space, for example. Someone might have had a realization. It could be a shift in mindset, a shift in being, a moment where something profound has happened and really with the client. And, it sort of can take your breath away. And I think the goosebumps is really, it's, it's so significant and something that makes you feel alive that you almost stop in your tracks, that it just, that wave of really rushing over you on a very, very deep, profound level. And it's something that doesn't happen all the time. And it's just those moments. And I think as well, it's moments when you're aligned, you're in alignment. So, and I think it brings back to maybe the story you said a bit with your dad. I felt father there, he was in alignment with that experience. And I think that is it. When you get the goosebumps, it's that feeling of being in alignment with something that completely washes over you. And it can go from exciting to taking your breath away to just completely pausing, in the moment.
So,
Profound.
so why is it your passion? Because once we had this conversation about really the importance of really measuring our life by the number of goosebumps we get sometimes, what do those, you know, what do those moments really mean? And why do you really want to help others through this transformation that they're going through the transition they're going through? Why do you want to help them, really have that feeling, that ultimate feeling of having good goosebumps? I'm going to call them good.
Goosebumps. Yeah. Well, I think first of all, to kind of answer there, I think what the moment means is that something really significant, kind of like what I've said, and profound has happened. And this means that the client is having a shift. Like there is something happening within. There is a realization. There might be a wakening up even. There is a moment of clarity, of extreme clarity or realization that is happening in that moment that actually could change the trajectory of somebody's life from this moment on. And I think that's what makes it so profound. Um, Something has happened from within, and it's like that shift in being that has happened from within in that moment, which what makes it, I suppose, so unique in some ways. Um, and maybe it's not always something that is going to change the trajectory. That's not so massive, but it's something that has really resonated deeply with the client and in turn resonated with me because in these moments, I've actually even experienced, from looking at the client, not only hearing them, but seeing them physically kind of move, their body move, knowing that something is happening within. And, I think why do I want to help and why, to answer your second bit, why is this so important? It's, you know, for me, coaching is it's my calling and it's really, my purpose in life because when I'm with the client and I've seen these transformations and I see the change from at the start, somebody comes to the session and there's no clarity, they're clouded, they're low, perhaps that they're stuck, they don't know really what is going on. And from the journey of that moment and through each step and each session, and you see the change and the transformation, and you see these moments where you've got goosebumps and there's realization and there's moments of clarity. And don't get me wrong, there's really tough moments as well, and moments where they have to experience this shake up as well within them. But it's the journey and where it takes them to where they want to be that is so, I suppose in some ways I call it magic because that's what it feels like sometimes. It's magic.
I love that definition. So tell us about the tipping point that you had that said, you know what, I need to be this coach to help people find what we're talking about today, their goosebumps.
So yeah, the tipping point for me was it was a moment I'll not forget this moment because it was so profound for me. And I've always worked in the social care industry, so it's always been very very quite stressful work throughout my years, and I've always been kind of under a lot of pressure and managed a lot of teams and so on. But it was actually at the start of COVID-19, and things where I was working in where my previous job, and working with mental health and that, and it was quite stressful. And I remember I had this moment of, you know, oh my goodness, you know, is this really what I'm going to do for the rest of my life? Am I always going to work in such a very, very stressful environment and have to deal with so much? And it was in that moment that I decided just no, you know. It was like almost a little meltdown moment where I just said, no, something has to change. This is it. Something has to change. And I called like the first life coach I spoke to was completely aligned with her. And within 2 weeks, I had enrolled to study transformational life coaching. And that's where my journey began. And honestly, from the first session I had with a client, it was that moment as well after that first session that I just knew that this was completely my purpose. It was a
Well,
very definite moment.
I'm glad you found your calling and you're here today. So you referenced COVID-19, and you know there was a lot of you know sadness and overwhelming feelings with COVID. But after it's kind of past us now. There has been a lot of just conversation, you know, one to one in groups, social media, the news. I mean, you name it, about really how unhappy so many people are.
Mm,
And and so obviously they are finding some of the things that they're unhappy about is that they don't know how to transition from where they are now to something that's going to bring them more passion, to bring them their version of these goosebumps. So, why do you think it really matters today to really seek out those moments that bring us these ultimate to the core goosebumps?
yeah, I think it really matters, Roger, because I think everybody has what would we say, capacity or capability, whatever you want to call it, to experience that. Everybody has that. But I think what's happened is life gets busy. Life has gotten busy again. People are caught up in in rushing, racing once again. You know, life is, let's be honest, life is stressful and all of that. And people are just, caught up in all of this. And actually a lot are still in jobs that are misaligned, just go each day, going to work, and not really aligned with what they're doing. And I think if people just really sort of took a step, take a step back, step into stillness, into quietness, take time to really, look within and explore, what will bring me joy? What is it I want? And I think that is the thing. What is it I want? And I think that is a crucial thing that we should be asking ourselves. What do I really want? Do I want peace and fulfillment and happiness and joy and really step back and look within and take the time to explore this. And I think with that, everybody has a purpose, and I truly believe that. It varies what your purpose, everyone's purpose is, but everybody has, and it is that purpose that can bring you that kind of alignment, those goosebumps, that satisfaction, that pleasure, those moments of just pure bliss where you're just, finding that joy out of what you do in life. And I think it's really important because everybody can get to that place. But I think it's about, slowing down, taking the time, and really allowing yourself the space to explore what it is, you want out of life.
Yeah. Uh, as you say that, I'm now getting goosebumps because I know so many people out there that really need a good dose of goosebumps here and there, and we need to start making those things happen. So now let's talk about business. And let's talk about the organization. Do you feel an organization, which we all know is made up of individuals, can an organization get goosebumps?
Yes. Yes, I do think so.
Tell
Yeah.
tell us how it looks and feels for an organization to have goosebumps.
For me, what I believe for an organization to have goosebumps, uh, you need to put um, your efforts. You know, you need to focus on your staff first and foremost. You need to be people orientated. If your teams, your organization, your team are going to come into work feeling goosebumps, you know, they need, in order for this to happen, you need to ensure that, you know, you've got the right management. So, you know, good leadership coming from the top, good leadership who's focused on their teams, who knows the value of looking after your staff, promoting their well-being, focusing on their well-being, you know, listening to them, listening to your staff is so important, you know, focusing on their development, supporting them, you know, making sure that they've got opportunities for growth. You know, what is it? Each person in the team, for example, is an individual. Looking at each person's strengths. Well, how can we draw on everyone's strengths, skills, abilities? How can we really tap into their potential? Because everybody has got potential, and everybody, you know, you are going to be happier in your job if you are reaching your potential, if your potential is being recognized. So that recognition, rewarding your staff, you know, rewarding for, you know, the work they do, listening to them, helping them grow, you know, really providing space for them to speak and discuss, where people are able to be creative. We all know that, you know, creativity brings joy. If you're creative, you've got that freedom to express yourself, express what you're good at. So can you imagine having all of this, you know, focus, you know, focusing on your people, having your people strategy? How are you going to do this? How can you align, you know, your people with the values of the organization, the goals, you know, so bringing all of this into alignment and really, you know, for me, it's really about listening. And I think that that's, you know, that's really a big thing. And you know, when we do this, you're going to retain your staff. You know, there's not going to be people leaving, you know, creating staff retention, because it's going to be motivating. People are going to want to come into work. People are going to feel connected, connected to each other. You know, if everyone has been given this space to this freedom to be creative and, you know, be goal orientated, to be listened to, and you know, it's going to light people up. People are going to want to come to work. People are going to have moments of goosebumps. And especially when people come together. And I think that is the thing with the team. You ever in a team where you've got a group and people are sharing ideas and knowledge and skills, and then they come up with an idea or a plan, and you know, that's when goosebumps happen. So it's very important.
And those are, as you said earlier, those are really magical moments that we need to cherish and learn from and embrace. So I appreciate that. Okay, so put your coaching hat on now and walk us as individuals and organizations through some possible solutions to help us reach that point where we're all getting goosebumps more frequently as individuals and as an organization.
Well, let's start with individuals. So I suppose, you know, if you're trying to find what your goosebumps are as an individual, I would first say, you know, solitude seems like a big word, but you know, it's you know, a deep thing, but it's solitude is important, or even just time alone as an individual. If you're seeking your goosebumps, you're not going to find that outside of yourself initially. You're going to find it within. And that is what I'm kind of touching on what I've said earlier, looking within, taking the time, reflecting, journaling, meditating, nature, you know, all of these things are what helps you look deep within, because the answers are within you. and they're not anywhere else. But it's about taking that time to really look within. And, it doesn't happen overnight. It can take time. And maybe there's the support of a coach to do that, to really sit, really to sit with people and have that space to explore, to look within, to have somebody who can be curious with you, to really, dig deep below and really look at, try and pick out the layers to see, what is going to give you those goosebumps. What is it? Because often there's things that's holding us back as well, limiting beliefs, holding you back, fears. What are you afraid of? So this is the kind of work that I think on an individual basis, is going to help you find the goosebumps. And I suppose as an organization, it's you know, how can we provide the space for our people in our organization to do that? Can we coach? Is there mentoring? Is there good management, good leadership is there the capacity and the resources to spend time with your team and give them the space as well to, to look within, maybe to be mentored, to be guided, to have training, to explore on a team level and come together to find as a collective in your team or even, different individuals as in, what their goosebumps may be. So, yeah, it's,
So, does being curious by nature and intentional curiosity to learn things, is that going to give you a better chance of reaching more goosebumps?
yeah, I think so. Yeah, I would believe so. Because when curiosity opens the doors, doesn't it? Because if we're not going to be curious, we're not really going to explore. And how are we going to ask ourselves questions to find the answers? So, I journal a lot. And with that, that can be a sense, you can ask questions and that sense of curiosity. You find things out about yourself that you might never have realized if you didn't approach things. And I think that's why it's such a powerful technique within the coaching space is having someone who's really curious and, coming to you with questions that you may never have thought of. So, we can be curious by nature, or we can have that intention and we can set that intention for ourselves. We can set that intention for our teams. How lovely is a manager to be curious with your team, to ask them questions, to know about them, to know about their work, to know about their skills, their knowledge. That all comes from a place of curiosity.
I love it. Well, so uh, I knew this was going to be an extra special episode, and you've lived up to everything I was hoping for and more. So I can't thank you enough for being my guest speaker today. And I know you have a whole lot more inspiration within you. Can you leave us with one more tidbit of Sue's inspiration to help us walk down that path of achieving and feeling that really cool feeling, that really energetic feeling of having goosebumps?
I would say stay curious and stay kind to yourself. And I think, let go of the fear.
Well said. So sounds so simple, doesn't it?
It does. It
It
does.
Yeah, it sounds so simple, but sometimes real life gets in the way, and we need to make time for to just live by
Mm.
those directions from you. So, how can someone out there who's listening can reach you if they want to learn more from you and be in contact with you?
Yeah, so you follow me on LinkedIn, Sue Boland, or on Instagram, Sue Boland Transformative Coach. My website, www.suebolandcoaching.com.
Well, I can't thank you enough. And I know we're going to be doing other collaborations and a whole lot more podcasts. So thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Roger. I've really enjoyed speaking with you.
My podcast wouldn't be the same if it wasn't for my sponsors and my great supporters. So let me take this opportunity to thank each and every one of them. First of all, I want to thank Rebecca at Custom Bookkeeping and Accounting, delivering trustworthy bookkeeping services since 2003. Dave and Dara at Virtues Matter, making this world a much happier place to be with their Virtues card apps, coaching, and workshops. Stephen at Buller Accounting, giving business owners depth and insight to their numbers. Eric and his team at Ivy Cat Web Design, the real superheroes of web development and design. Jennifer and Jean at the Seavers Real Estate Team, serving Pierce and Kitsap counties with their home buying and selling needs. Maury at the Maury Method, the world's only brainwave entrainment engineer, helping everyone have more clarity, less stress, and overall better brain health. Priya at Pivot My Profit, helping individuals and businesses have better control of their finances and more money at the end of their day. Melissa at the Soul Vibe Energy High, the queen of the aha moments, helping individuals find those holes in their cups, repair the hole, and gain back their positive energy. And finally, Rick at West Sound Recording. You talk, they do all the rest. Thank you, Rick, for all your efforts with the production and editing of my podcast.